In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the rear brake calipers on this Toyota Corolla. Located right behind your rear wheels. Let's get started. To safely perform this repair, we need a scan tool capable of retracting the electronic parking brake. Once we have our vehicle selected, each scan tool will look different. For us, we're going to go into the anti-lock brake / electronic parking brake. Often, you'll see something called hot functions or quick functions. That's where you'll want to go. I'll go into functional tests, special functions, EPB full release. There we go. You'll hear the brake calipers in the rear retract the pistons, and that's done. So we'll exit this. At this point, you can shut the ignition off, disconnect your scan tool. Of course, if you don't do that, the battery will drain. With the vehicle safely raised and supported, if your vehicle has hubcaps on the wheels, you'll want to remove them. If not, of course, skip this step. To remove them, simply grab on to one side and pull firmly. Now you can use a 21mm socket, remove all 5 lug nuts, and then pull the wheel off. Now with the wheel off, from the outside part of the caliper, we have to remove this banjo bolt, which connects our brake hose to the caliper here. Use a 14mm wrench or socket and get this out. Make sure you have a collection bucket underneath because fluid will leak when you do this. Break it free and pull it off the rest of the way. Take the banjo bolt out and take the washers off of the hose. We'll install new washers. To stop this from dripping, you can plug it up with something or press down on the brake pedal with a rod and wedge it between the seat and the brake pedal all the way to the floor. What I choose to do is take a valve stem, which comes off of a tire or a wheel, I suppose, and if you stick it right in here, if you have any other sort of rubber hose that goes in there and plugs up the hole, this will make it so that it stops dripping. Now, the caliper will still be dripping because it's draining. That's normal. From the back side of the caliper, you'll see 2 5mm Allen bolts that we need to remove to get the motor for the parking brake off the caliper. Take that one bolt out. And the second bolt. At this point, you can wiggle this and pry it off of the caliper. Just like that. Fold this up and over and set it aside. Now with a 14mm wrench or socket, remove the 2 bolts holding the caliper onto the bracket. For these, the slider pins may spin when you break this free, which is normal. They both do, so let's hold these with some pliers. If you have a thin wall wrench, I believe it's a 17, you can use that, but I do not, so pliers will have to do the trick. Take the caliper and pull it off. Set that aside and let it drain. Remove your brake pads so we can transfer them to the new caliper. And with a 17mm socket, remove the 2 bolts holding the bracket onto the rear axle. Leave this one in a couple threads, take the other one out. And I did that so this would hold it. I'll take this out. With your caliper bracket on the workbench, I know for me this is not a new caliper, but assuming you had a new one, apply some brake grease or some silicone paste rated for brakes right on the areas where the pads will sit with the anti-rattle clips. This will prevent corrosion in the future. These anti-rattle clips have a hook style spring that needs to be facing outward towards the outer parts of the caliper. It's time to lubricate the slider pins, and I'm going to do this one at a time because one of them has this rubber bushing or sleeve here, the other one will not. Add some silicone paste to the inside of the boot just as a reserve of grease in there, and then apply a skim coating to the pin itself. Once you have all that lubricated, slide the pin in all the way. If there's air trapped in the boot, the best way to get rid of it is to press in on the pin and then squeeze the boot, and that'll get the air out. Do the same to the other side of the caliper bracket. With all of that done, let's install the caliper bracket back over the rear end. Install the 2 bolts. I'll bottom these out and then we'll torque them to 79 foot-pounds. It's time to install the brake pads. Make sure you install them with these hooks on the bottom. Slide them in at an angle and press them flat up against the rotor and into the bracket. Of course, we'll do the same to both. Make sure they move smoothly and they're not bound up. Install the brake caliper over the pads and over the bracket. And have your 2 bolts ready to start these into the pins so you can lock the caliper onto the pins. Bottom these out and the torque for these is 25 foot-pounds. All right, that's tight. Take the motor and slide it over the caliper. Line up the splines in the middle as well as the bolt holes, of course. There we go. That should go on smoothly. I'll start my bolts in. Get these bottomed out. Once they are bottomed out, give them about 1/8 of a turn at most. They're small bolts going into aluminum. You don't want to break these. All right, those are tight. We'll take our plug out of the hose. Fluid will start dripping, of course, so have that collection bucket ready. Give the hose a quick wipe with a paper towel or a rag, making sure that there's no debris on it. Then you'll want to take your banjo bolt and install a new copper washer on it. Bottom it out all the way. Slide that banjo bolt through the hose. On the other side, install another new copper washer. Then position the hose so that this little hook seats into its cutout on the caliper. Tighten up the banjo bolt, at least by hand, to make sure it's seated. There we go. Torque this banjo bolt to 21 foot-pounds. What you're looking to do is squeeze those washers a little bit. That'll create a nice tight seal. At this point, with our collection bucket still underneath, pop the cap off the bleeder screw. Then use an 8mm wrench to break this free. Open it up, and this will let fluid fill up the caliper. This is called a gravity bleed because gravity will naturally want to pull fluid in and push the air out. Once we have a steady trickle of fluid coming out of this bleeder screw, we can close it. This should take care of most, if not all, of the air in the system. However, you still may want to do a full manual brake bleed, which you'll see how to do at the end of the video. That is especially applicable if your brake pedal feels spongy or soft, not like it did before. With it dripping steadily, we're going to close this off. Use brake parts cleaner over that collection bucket to clean up your work area, everywhere where the brake fluid dripped. Once this is dried off, cap the bleeder screw up, reinstall the wheel. We'll put on all 5 lug nuts, bottom them out in a cross pattern to seat the wheel evenly, and also in a cross pattern, torque them to 76 foot-pounds. 76 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Here we go. Double check them all. If your vehicle had hubcaps, go ahead and put them on. And if that's the case, make sure the cutout for the valve stem lines up or this won't go on all the way. Don't forget to pump up the brake pedal, top off the master cylinder. To exit the parking brake service mode, all you need to do is lift up on the parking brake switch to enable it. After you've pumped the brake pedal, you'll hear the caliper motors run. When they stop, that's activated and set. So at that point, you can just disengage it normally and take it for a road test. Under the hood, locate your brake master cylinder, which will be on the driver's side by the firewall near the battery. To access it, we'll have to peel off the weather stripping here just by unhooking it from its retainers. And then this cover pulls right up and out of the rest of the plastics here, and then all of this folds right over. And with that out of our way, we can see our brake master cylinder and access it a lot better. Mine is very clean, but if yours has a lot of dust and debris, clean it off with a paper towel or a rag first. Then unthread the cap counterclockwise, and if you look on it, it'll say that you need .3 brake fluid for this braking system. We'll set that aside. At this point, I like to remove as much of the old fluid from the reservoir as possible to start off with completely fresh fluid. So to do that, there's going to be a little screen in here. With a gloved hand, I can stick my fingers in here and pry up on it. Sometimes it is a little difficult to get it out. If you can't pick it out with just your fingers because it's too slippery, you can use a small pick to help pry it up and out. Once you get it up to the top, you're going to want to turn it counterclockwise and it'll pop right out. Set that over in a clean spot. Now with the help of a fluid transfer pump, remove as much of the old fluid as possible from the reservoir. All right, that's as much as I'm going to get out of it. Now reinstall the screen. Push it down all the way. And top off the master cylinder with fresh .3 brake fluid. Cap it off. The bleed sequence for this vehicle starts at the right rear caliper, then moves on to the left front, so goes across, then top off the master cylinder after you've bled the second one, then you move on to the left rear, then the right front to finish it off. After that fourth one, top off the master cylinder once again, then repeat the procedure in the same sequence if you think you have more air in the system until you're happy with how the brake pedal feels and you have no more air. Here we are at the right rear caliper, which is our first one. Like I said, I'm going to remove the bleeder screw cap. I have an 8mm wrench ready, and in my case, I have this hose connected to a collection receptacle. If you don't, just put a drain pan underneath. I have an assistant in the vehicle ready to pump up the brake pedal and hold pressure on that brake pedal. Go ahead and pump, please. And they're holding pressure, so I'm going to use my 8mm wrench, open up the bleeder screw. That pedal hit the floor, so I'm going to close it up and go ahead and pump again. We're going to repeat this process till we have no more air and clean fluid coming out of this bleeder screw. Okay, let's do it one last time. Go again. Okay, that was good. You can let go now. I'm going to remove my hose. If any brake fluid dripped, use brake parts cleaner and a rag to clean it all up. And of course, cap it off. Now we'll move to the left front. I'm going to do the same thing. Remove the bleeder screw cap, install my hose, an 8mm wrench for this as well. Go ahead and pump, please. All right, holding pressure. And go again. Okay, one more time. Perfect. You can let go. There's no air in this caliper here, so everything's good to go. I'm going to wipe any brake fluid off, cap off the bleeder screw. It's time to top off the master cylinder, so take the cap off, fill it with fluid, and cap it back off. After that's topped off, repeat the same procedure to the left rear caliper, then the right front to finish it off. Top off the master cylinder one last time. And now let's get this piece reinstalled. It has two hooks on the back side that have to slide in, and then it secures in the front. Make sure it clicks in, and then reinstall the weather stripping. Now put the wheels on and torque them to 76 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.